case studies, but also the people at Volksbank themselves, the risk departments, also with the BRCC, gather the data about people, the customers with the mortgages, and then they ask us to help them to visualize and to help them construct the customer journey, because they want to address all those people. They want to get in touch with them, and there are a lot of people, so you want to get an easy way to find out where are the fallbacks in the negative points in the customer journey regarding this project. Data we used is the mortgage information. So, what kind of mortgage do people have? How much of that mortgage is interest only? But also information about what kind of customers, how long are they being customer? But also for the customer journey, what kind of journey does it took? So did it go? People receive letters, so they get mailings about their customer, about the mortgage, and are they calling back? What are they doing? Are they saying, I know I have an interest-only product, but I don't see any problems, or do they actually change their mortgage and therefore reduce the risk of the customer, but also for the bank? If you look on the kind of dashboards we developed, this is the main one. This is on the front page, where you have 3 pillars, which are 3 stages in the customer journey, where you can look. We got, for example, 1,000 people we have to get in touch with. How many have we already get in touch with, and how many of them responded, but also people we don't have an actual telephone number or even an address. And eventually, what happened with them? Did they talk with an employee about their mortgages, or they just falling out of the funnel? And we also made some dashboards regarding team management, because there are also special teams who works on this project, and the team manager asked us, I want to get a most effective team, so can you help us with giving insights about, what are my people doing? Are they doing the right things? Have they enough work to do? And also there we made, you see here the dashboard we made for the team managers of one of the sheets we have, just to get on top of the process. This is the guy who actually should have been here, it's Pino. He's the product manager. But I asked him last week, what are the benefits of a Tableau? What is Tableau for you? Why did you use Tableau and not the different kind of tooling? And one of the biggest compliments he gave Tableau, he said it's giving visualization of the discussion. You got a lot of different discussions, better discussions with your stakeholders, because you can see on a very insightful base, you can see what is happening. So all the steps in the process, all the steps in the funnels are visualized, and you get to easily retrieve the pains and the gains in the funnel. And also, very important, but that's not only Tableau, it's very good with a lot of data. So there are a lot of data beneath it, and you have click-throughs till the customer, so you also know what is going on, and you also, if you have doubts about the data, you can drill down, and you can see, oh, this customer, and then you can look, validate the data. The other use case I have is about revolving credits. It's a kind of similar project, but not about mortgages, but about credits. Also, the supervisor also instructed the banks, give us insights in how many people you have with revolving credits and how much of those customers are, yeah, are in problems or are sleeping. It could be you have a lot of sleeping credits. And also here, we did one thing more than on the previous project. On this project, we also explore the data because we want to make buckets of customers, because also here, you want to get in touch with the customers, but there are a lot of customers, so you need to prioritize which customers you want to take first. And there are always special cases. People who are behind on their mortgages are apart, but also people who passed away, but it didn't even, the credits are still alive, so that's very, you can't get in touch with them. The data here is mostly similar on the previous project. So you want to get product information, customer information, but more important, you want to get information about what has the customer do. So also here, you got customers which you write a letter, dear customer, you still have a revolving credit. How do you use it? Do you want to use it? Want to continue to use it? And also there you want to know how many people are calling about the letters they get, or how many go to the shops. All those information also gives insights how the funnel is getting fulfilled by the customer. But the more important here, and you can see here the main dashboard we use for that, it's about the buckets. So a lot of customers are made into buckets. You can see on the upper, beneath the screen, on the underside screen, you see the different kind of buckets. And if it's blue, it's still full. And if it's going to, if they're already being investigated, and also the credits have been, what do you call it? If the account is not active anymore, then it gets gray. So over here you want to know for sure, and you want to know the supervisor. You get them how many of the people you have to get in touch with, and the supervisor is only happy if you have 100% accuracy here. So that's the main reason that we also want to give insights in the funnel, and you want to make it empty. This is the second stream. The second stream is about the funnel. So the project leader here made in PowerPoint a visualization of the process. And the project manager said, it would be very nice if we can see in Tableau how the customers are going through the process. So I asked, if you give me the picture, then I can make it in Tableau. She was very surprised, but I think the people who are here, some of them know how to do it. It's quite easy just to make a process and visualize the data on top of the process. So here they have insights on a daily basis. Where are my customers and how did they go to the funnel? Also, Carlijn, the product manager, also had some remarks about Tableau. One of her compliments about Tableau, it's easy to use, it's intuitive, it's colorful, so very, very good. But also, it gets you daily new insights, and also the visualization where we visualize the process. That's what she really liked about it. And so, also compliments. Unfortunately, she's not here. So she gives all the compliments to Tableau. At last, there was also another discussion we had. We had the buckets. We got all the buckets, but we also get customers who switch buckets. We had some discussion about it, and they said, we want to give insights. We want to show, visualize how the customers going through those buckets and jump from the one bucket to the other. And then somebody said, it's about it looks like the picture of the fish who jumps through the balls. And I said, yeah, if you want to visualize how customers are jumping from ball to ball, then you can also do that in Tableau. So this is also one of the visualizations we did at Tableau, with Tableau. But unfortunately, she's still scared to give it to the supervisor, but it's just one way just to look at the data and give it a very, insightful, but also playful way of giving your data. I've got a question there. You got a microphone?
Thanks for the presentation. I was wondering who is using Tableau within Volksbank? So is it only the ones that are tracking the process, or is it also the people that work with customer experience?
Both. There are a lot of projects regarding Tableau. So on the right side of you, there are people working at Volksbank, so they know a lot. But at marketing, customer experience, just survey data, NPS, customer satisfaction, there are a lot of dashboards about that. But also in the operations, so there are also dashboards for daily stand-ups. So what if I had done yesterday, what I'm going to do this today. So, and this is more project-based, but yeah, I think it's the entire population. Any more questions? Oh.
Yeah, it's nice that you show this, this visualization. I'm new in Tableau, but is this really interactive? I mean, if the figures are changing, is the blue rising and dropping in the picture?
Yes.
Or?
Yes. Okay. Yeah, this is it's interactive. The size of the fish is dependable on the number of customers beneath it, and also the water in the balls is also represents the number of customers. So if the customers is getting away, the bowl is getting empty, and if more fish are jumping from left to the middle, the fish is getting bigger. So and in the normal visualization, you also have numbers around it, but I anonymize the data. So. Yep. Very good. Then I'll give the word to Marijn.
All right, thank you, Henrik.
Can you hear me? Yes, great. So I will replace this a little bit. All right, so hello everyone. I'm very happy to be here and pretty honored. And today I'm going to talk about one of my favorite subjects in Tableau. It's called performance. And I want to start off with one of my dashboards I've optimized. The internet is a bit crappy, so it could take a while. Is it done yet? No? Okay. Who recognized this loading screen? All right, I see some hands. Okay, this is a GIF, so it will render forever. It's a little joke. If you have this in Tableau, listen carefully. I'm gonna give you some tips and tricks on how to solve this problem in Tableau. Also, at the end of the sheets, I have my contact details, and if you want to have these sheets as a paper or something you can work with, just contact me and I will send you the papers, okay? So let me introduce myself. I'm Merlijn in Dutch. I'm 27 years old, as you can see on the left graph. It's a beautiful trend. I have a relationship for 8 years now I come from the eastern part of the Netherlands. And according to some data blending on the internet, I only have 55 years left of living, which is data science. And from this part of my life, I already work 14% at Infotopics. I also do some cycling, but the last year it went a little bit bad, so sorry for that. I work at Infotopics, and Infotopics is the first and I think still the biggest Tableau Gold partner in the Netherlands. We have right now four offices in the Netherlands and almost 50 employees. We do a lot of Tableau. We breathe Tableau, actually. We love it, and we already have more than 300 customers we serve with Tableau, and also Alteryx. We also have an academy where we do a lot of training. We help people to understand their data, and we provide several trainings on Tableau Desktop, Tableau Server, from beginner to advanced to intermediate, all kinds of levels. So if you're interested, there are also some colleagues from me here in the office here, the pretty guys in the middle there. You can also ask them it later. All right? So let's get started. These are one of our customers. Maybe they're here. Just wave. Where we do Tableau, where we are really proud of. And let's start with the presentation. I have four key points I want to talk with you about. The first is a little bit of introduction, then some laws of performance in Tableau, tooling, and at last the tips, something you have to listen for, the tips on how to improve it for Tableau Desktop and Tableau Server. All right? This is a little use case. This is a insurance website, and they had a problem with performance, and they improved the performance with a few percent. I think it was 10%. I can't read text right now. I have the same screen as you, but okay. And what happened is that with a little bit of increase in performance, they had an increase of 30% of their sales of people which are using are buying their insurances. So with a little bit of improving, they hired their sales actually. And this is exactly the same for Tableau dashboards. If you have a slow dashboard, people won't use it, people are not satisfied. And by only adding, improving the speed of the dashboard, you will get more satisfied people. So Tableau is doing a lot on this subject. Last year they introduced Hyper, the incredible database, which gives faster data analysis, faster data ingestion, and enterprise scalability. Great words. And last year on the conference, they had this hyper, maybe people heard it, presentation where some typical German guy was presenting this. He's one of the owners of one of the builders of Hyper. And he was doing a little battle between the old TDE, Tableau Data Extract, and Hyper as a data engine. And Hyper was winning, of course. It's pretty awesome. And Infotopics, we love these techniques, and we also have our own techniques. And with some, I have a use case of a dashboard from one of our customers you saw in the sheet before. And we went from, with these tips you will get, and with our performance scan, from 60 seconds back to 2 seconds. And we did not reduce functionality of the dashboard. So some things are just fixable. All right. So what can you do is the big question. And that's what I'm going to tell today. You also see a Sankey diagram right here. And you also saw it in the presentation before. Who has ever made a Sankey diagram in Tableau? Okay. Raise your hand if it's very hard to do. Okay. Raise your hand again if you want to do it within 5 clicks in Tableau. All right. Pay attention to our website. On 3 June, during the Tableau conference in London, something very big is coming from us, where you can build this visualization on yourself within 5 clicks. All right? So infotopics.nl. The great laws of performance. The first one. It's a very obvious one, but this is mostly a law a lot of people forget. If you have a slow database and you connect to it with a live connection in Tableau, Tableau will never make this magically fast. It's just slow. So if you connect to a database live and it's slow, in Tableau it will also be slow. If it's slow on Tableau Desktop, it will also be slow on Tableau Server. or if you work at a very slow old computer, it will maybe be a little bit faster. But a Tableau server has a lot of more functionality to do. It has to do a lot of rendering, permissions checking, and background tasks like refreshing the extracts. So if it's slow on your desktop, it won't become faster on server. It's important to remember. Also, if you have a Tableau user, for example, on the right, and he is experiencing slow performance, keep in mind that the more away your Tableau server is, for example, if you're here in Den Bosch and your Tableau server is somewhere in China or Japan, maybe a better example, you have a lot of latency. And the dashboard is a package which is going through the line over the internet. It's going through all these points until it reaches Den Bosch. And the same counts for a database. If you have a live connection between a Tableau server dashboard or a Tableau dashboard and a database, and the database is also in China and you're here, you will receive a lot of lag. So keep it in mind. Latency is important. And there's a big difference between scalability and performance. A dashboard can render fast on Tableau desktop, but if you render it on a Tableau server and 10, 20, or 100 people are going to use it, it could become very, very slow. Could become. So there's a difference between performance and scalability on a server. And newer is always better. There's an example of the mapping engine in Tableau, which is getting improved every version. And there's an example of a dashboard which took like 2 minutes in Tableau 9. With the update of Tableau 10, they did a lot of improvements on maps. It went back to 1 minute. And with an update on 2018, it became even faster with 30 seconds. So it's just cutting in half every time an update comes. So if you're on Tableau 7 or 6, even before I was born, I think, upgrade. It's one of the keywords. And less is more. So if you have a dashboard like this, on the left, I mean, it shows a lot of information by default, a lot of filters, a lot of visualizations, a lot of, there's also some scroll bars, so that's hidden data. Try to use dashboard actions instead of dashboard filters. Start high level and go down. From high level, go to the details. I will talk about that a little bit later. But first I want to talk about performance tooling, because there are a lot of tools which can help you identify performance problems in Tableau and give you small solutions on what you can do. So the first one is the most obvious one, and it's right into Tableau. Who have heard of the the performance recording in Tableau? All right, some hands, like the half of the room. Tableau Desktop and also Tableau Server have a performance recording. And this performance recording method is really simple. You go to Help, you go to Settings and Performance, and you click on Start Performance Recording. When you do that, Tableau will record every action, everything you do in Tableau, and it will calculate, it will just record everything. And when you go back to Help, Settings and Performance, you can click on Stop the Recording. And what you get is a Tableau workbook. And in the Tableau workbook, there's a visual analysis, some overviews on the queries which has been executed, the data which has been blended, the maps which has been rendered, etc., etc. And you can define really fast which sheet in your dashboard is really slow, and then you can debug which calculation is giving you that slow performance. So that is something you can do here. It's really easy and really helpful. So it's something you can also do on Tableau Server. If you enable it in the settings, it's let's see, it's within settings. There's a method called Workbook Performance Metrics. There's a little checkbox you have to mark it, and then if you add the URL above, question mark, double punt, record performance is yes, you will get a little performance icon with your dashboard. And then you can analyze the same on server. All right? There are also some logs. This is a little bit harder, so this is more for the advanced people. Sometimes you get some delay or something. It could be a network connection, anything. Tableau Desktop and Tableau Server are logging a lot. And for desktop, you can find it in your Documents My Tableau repository. And if you remove the folder, just clean it up, and then open Tableau, open your dashboard, you get a little small set of logs, and you can maybe identify what's the problem there. It's in JSON, so if you care, you could do analysis on it. Tableau has a JSON connection, dus. And on Tableau Server, you have a status page, which gives you insight in the usage of your dashboards, the usage of the extracts which have been refreshing, the load times on dashboards. And here you can also see if dashboards are only slow on a certain time of the day or during the whole day, or maybe there's an extract refreshing which is giving you less performance. So these things you can analyze on Tableau Server really easy right here. And then you have this is a really advanced thing, if you have latency, so what I'm talking about, the server in China or the US, for example. If you open your browser, you can also look at a thing called the developer tools, it's called. And it has a network pane. This is really advanced, but you can look at this, and there you can find the content download. It's the bottom bar. And then you can see how long your computer is downloading the workbook. So there you can identify things like latency and network speed. There are also some enterprise tooling available. Tableau, for example, and Tableau is a monitor which is monitoring your Tableau server every second, I think. It's recording all those metrics about your CPU, your memory, everything you can think of, and it gives you a beautiful Tableau dashboard. And you can see if your server is lacking in memory, or your I/O from your disk is really slow. You have a high CPU. Everything you can imagine is there. Also, if processes are crashing. So if you have a SQL server which is crashing, for example, you can see it right here and when it's happening. And if you want to see if your server is capable of a lot of people, you can do a stress test, as they call it, and you can do that with Tableau. So all these sheets are available later, so you don't have to remember it, just know it's there. And then we come to the tips and tricks. So I will get a little bit of water. Which is a bit mean, because I have water. So I want to divide this in 5 parts. The first one is workbook design, and I ordered them on influenceability. I translated the word from the Dutch. I think it's a word. All right, it's good. Yeah, great. And this is the amount of influence you as a Tableau developer has on your dashboard or your environment. I'm starting with the most influenceability is, for example, your workbook design by changing your visualizations. Calculations is also something you can really easy change. But when you go to queries, data, and environment, it's getting a little bit harder to manage. Sometimes things like data, for example, is just there. You can't do anything about it. It's there. And an environment is something you get from IT, probably, and it's just there, and you can scream about it a lot, but you can change it. But I still have some tips for that too. So let's start with workbook design. Let's do a little bit of interaction. This is a dashboard, very beautiful dashboard. Who can show me, or who can point? Let's do it a little bit different. How many queries are used? How many queries are fired to execute this dashboard? So let's say between 0 and 5, hands. Between 5 and 10, maybe. All right. Even more, maybe. Yeah, even more, a little bit. All right. So I put some arrows around it. Tableau is executing a lot of queries, and if someone can count them, to build this dashboard. And maybe you don't see it directly, but a filter is also a visualization. It's just a list, but it's a list which has to be rendered, and it's a list which has to be filled with the members of a dimension. So it's something which has to become, or which has to be rendered. So if you have a lot of filters on your dashboard, they all have to be calculated, queried against your data source. As you can see, there are also a lot of marks on the sheet. So the above one has the upper one has a very tiny scroll bar, which means there are a lot of rows inside, around 26K of marks. And the below one has around 8K of marks. And we have a very big color legend. They're all queries, all queries. If you change that to something more we love and we like, you could do something like this. It's an interactive dashboard. We use a lot of Tableau functionality like dashboard actions, and we use the Z shape, for which we may all know. The Z shape, we start in the top left with a high overview visualization, and when we see something we don't like, a red bubble for example, we click it and we go to the right. We see a little bit more detail, we click it and we go to the top bottom left. And then we go to our details eventually. But here we have all the details and we try to filter it to see something. All right? So it's a big difference. Here are only, if you look at this dashboard, on the start there's only one query fired. And the difference is around 4 times in performance. So, to summarize that, understand your business question and know what your customer, I'm saying customer, but know the people you're developing your dashboards for, wants to know and what's the most important business question. And always start with a lightweight starting dashboard, This gives them the feeling of a fast interactive dashboard. So less is more, and we always try to use not more than 4 sheets on a dashboard. So around 4 sheets, maybe 5. Use dashboard actions instead of filters. It's more interactive, it's way cooler. And use the Zorro Z shape. All right? If we take a look at a visualization itself, you can use a lot of dimensions, etc. on your tooltip, for example, on your details. But if you do that, you add data to that visualization. And more data is coming to that visualization. And that could maybe force server-side rendering, because you have a lot of marks on the visualization, which is getting it very slow. But you also, Tableau is also have to query all those columns and add it to the visualization. So if you can remove some things from the visualization, just clean it up as much as you can. And if you use filters, of course we all do, try to use them efficiently. So if it's not possible to use an dashboard action, use a filter. And relevant values is something which is really easy. And with the introduction of the hierarchy filters, it's getting less relevant. But try to reduce the use of relevant values. Because every time you change one filter, all the other filters have to be filled again because you have a relevant filter. And therefore also, if you have a cross-database filter, for example, between several different data sources, the slowest one is the one which is the one the performance is getting from. So if you have 5 fast data sources and 1 really slow one, all the 5 have to wait until the last one is complete, and then your dashboard is ready. And the apply button is just a user experience. We did a lot of user experiencing with customers. And they say, the filters are a bit slow. I don't know. They feel very sluggy. And we added the apply button to the filters. And after that, we didn't hear anything about slow filters anymore, because a person clicks on the filter and Tableau immediately starts to render. And then they wait until it's done and click again and click again. But you can just click through it, as we people from Tableau know. You can just click and click and click and click, and the last one is getting rendered. But this is just user experience. If you use the apply button, people think it's faster, so that's great. And Tableau has a lot of different settings on how to render a filter, so the drop down or the wildcard match. And the only thing you have to be careful of is not putting enormous lists of drop downs with like 20,000 numbers, for example, product name or order ID in a filter, because if you put it on the browser and you click the drop down, sometimes it takes 3-4 seconds to even render the drop down with your browser. I have to take a little breath sometimes, sorry. So, If we look at mark types, for example, the bar chart or the circles or the polygons, there's a certain order of speed in those. And it's very minimized, very minimal, but the lines, bubbles, and bars are the fastest. Those are just blazingly fast. After that, you get the custom shapes and filled maps. And after that, you get polygons. And polygons are the slowest mark types to render, which makes sense, actually. But they also force server-side rendering, which means if you publish the workbook to your server, and as a customer or a user of Tableau, I click on the dashboard. Tableau is saying, okay, this dashboard is way too complicated to build. I will build it for you, and I will send you an image. And this image looks like the dashboard. And every time I hover over a tooltip, Tableau says, okay, you hover over a tooltip, let me give you a new image with the tooltip included. So, as you can imagine, it sounds really expensive and really inefficient. So, if you experience this kind of slugginess, you have probably server-side rendering, which means you have too complicated visualizations. The other two are not really important. But I stole a little image from a video. This is the difference with browsers and how they react to several different mark types. So if we look at custom shapes, for example, you can see that Internet Explorer 11 is really slow with that, compared to Chrome, which is really fast. It's the second, the third pane. So there is a difference in browsers and the speed they render the dashboard. They have a different engine, so it's obvious. And Internet Explorer is always the slowest, almost always, as we can all imagine. The last one is use a fixed dashboard size. And this one is not really for performance. It is, but it's also for something else which is really important. But first for performance, Tableau tries to cache as much as possible. So if you open the dashboard and someone else is also opening it, Tableau is trying to use as much as possible cache as it can do. Whoa. So if you just look at a dashboard, I do it again, I just get the cache of him and I render it within a second. If you have a automatic size dashboard, so one which is scaling with your screen, Tableau can't use cache because the one you're looking at maybe have a different size as the one I'm looking at. So it's looking different. It has different dimensions. And it will re-render it every time, and it can't use any cache. So that's one important thing. The second important thing is if you use the automatic function, so the dashboard has an automatic size, you don't have any control of how the dashboard looks at the user's computer. So try to always disable automatic and create a fixed size. So that was the dashboard design part. We continue with calculations. It's the second most influenceable part of this presentation. And we start with data physics. Cool word. And there's a general rule in Tableau. So if you have a calculation, for example, if A is B, then do this, else if something else, do that, else. For example, we all do this to show a target, above target, below target, anything like that. There's a general rule. Numbers and booleans, so 1, 2, 3, 4, are true, false, are faster than dates, and dates are faster than string calculations. So if you do something like, if your name is, if named like Merlijn, then pretty awesome, else even more awesome. That's okay, but you can also do it, you can also translate that to maybe something like an integer. So Merlijn is 1 and the rest is 0. And that's the most efficient way to do an if-else statement or anything else you can do in Tableau. If you use count distincts, they are great, but they are also pretty expensive, pretty hard to calculate. And it's getting even more harder if you do it on a customer name, for example. So also there, if you can use a number of Boolean, so a count distinct on a order ID instead of a customer name or a customer ID, for example, it will give you a lot of performance boost. So try to use the right calculation if you create Tableau calculations. The fastest one is the row level calculation. This is the one which is also getting pre-calculated in your extract. So if you do something like first name plus last name with a little dash in the middle, Tableau will pre-calculate it and just create a new column in Tableau which contains that information. So it will not be calculated every time you visualize it. So it's really smart. After that, you get aggregated calculations. So for example, the sum of my profit divided by the sum of my sales. These are dependent of your visualization, because if you use a different dimension, the sum is different, so you get a different ratio. And level of detail calculations, of course, are really awesome. I can't think of a life without level of detail, but they can also become a little bit slow. I will show it a little bit one sheet later. And all these calculations, except the table calculations, will go to the data source. And Tableau will ask the data source if they can get an answer. So they will go to Hyper, they will go to your live data source, they will go everywhere. So if you have a live connection, you can do something with the row level calculations. So a row level calculation is a calculation which is the same every time. So you can also pre-calculate it in your live database. So you don't have to do it in Tableau anymore. So if you look at level of detail is a part of a worksheet query. So it's a part of your visualization. And there's something about level of detail, which means that a level of detail, if I use it on multiple sheets, so if I use the same level of detail calculation on multiple sheets, it will get recalculated every time you use it. So if you use it 4 times on 4 different sheets, it will get calculated 4 times, which could have big impact. And if you have an extract, it cannot be cached. So a level of detail and a little execution, a little example. We did these calculation tips and tricks with one of our dashboards at a customer. And in the upper image, you have the performance monitor. We use it to analyze the queries. The slowest query was around 4 seconds, and the fastest around 0.2 seconds. In total, it was 15 seconds of execution. And we changed the string calculations to integers. We shuffled a bunch of calculations back to the database. We said, okay, just calculate it there already before we do it in Tableau. And with only those 2 optimizations, we managed to get the dashboard's execution time back to 5 seconds. So 3 times faster with just 2 optimizations. And if you can do it, try to use the default Tableau functionality. Tableau has a lot of cool functions which make your life really easy, like the custom dates, the groups, the bins, aliases, for example. So try to not create a calculated fields which say, if my category is something like A, then A. If it's something like that, then B. And then you get a weird calculation. Just use the group function. So select your things and hit group, and Tableau will group it for you. It's easier, it's also easy to manage for the other developers in your company, and it's faster, always faster. So if you take a look at the queries, it's the third part. It's still a plus, so you can do something about it. If you have your data in one data source, so if you have just one SQL server, for example, and it's possible, try to always use a join and try to prevent a blend. It's not always possible, but if you can, prevent the blending, because a blend will always be executed after the visualization is finished. So if I have a bar chart and I blend something like my target against it, it will just first render my bar chart, and on the result of the bar chart, it will blend my targets too. So it's always two queries behind each other. So that will always be slower. So if you join it, it's in one data set and it's just one query. Less manipulation is better. Union, pivots, and calculations in your join, for example, it's all great, but if you can do it somewhere in your database and not in Tableau, it can give you some performance boost. And always try to get rid of custom SQL, because it's terrible. And it makes sense how it's working, but if you create a custom SQL, Tableau will always execute the full custom SQL. So for the people which don't know what it is, you have this great data source connection screen where you can just drag your tables on and it will join, etc. But you can also use a little functionality called custom SQL. And if you drag it, you can create your own query by typing. It's called coding. We don't do that. It's called coding. You can do something like select star from database A, dot table, something, group, join, etc., etc. Some people like it because it's really close to SQL Server, for example, or to your database. But if you do it and you drag, for example, in your visualization, something like a category on your visualization, Tableau will say, select category from, and then the bracket open, then the full custom SQL, bracket close, and then some where statements. So it will just first get all the data from the database with your custom SQL, and if it's all in Tableau, it will say, okay, and then I only want this column. So it's really inefficient, really inefficient. I hear something, sorry. It's on, I hear.
It's on? It's on? Okay.
Sorry. You're saying don't use custom SQL, but for instance, we have a data warehouse where there are tables with around 200 columns, and even that's not enough for us. But if you're using the normal way of doing it, then he will show 200 columns, and it's also very slow. Because maybe I'm only interested in my end result in, let's say, 5 columns.
Yeah, that's true, yes. But
So
it's not slow.
we are seeing the custom SQL just as a way to get the performance up instead of the other way around.
That's not true. So Tableau will only query the things you ask. So if I say I want a visualization with my category and my sales from my data source with 200 columns, Tableau will ask the database, select category, comma, sales from your table, group by category. So it will never execute something against these 200 columns. But if you use it in your custom SQL, Tableau will do it. So the query engine of Tableau is really smart, and it will only ask the database what it needs. It will never ask more. Okay, so it's really optimized.
So, sorry, Marlijn, follow up on that. I think this only applies if you don't use an extract, right? If it's a live connection.
Yes, for an extract we have different rules, which I will come to on the data part. Yes, if it's an extract, we have some great tips for you right now. All right? So, data. The first one is, if you have an extract and it has around 200 columns, for example, you have to try to reduce the amount of columns, and if it's possible, try to reduce the amount of rows. So if you have an extract with like 30 years of history, and you only use the last 2 years, use an extract filter. It's right here. So if you make an extract from your data source, you get this little pane on the top, bottom right, sorry, and you can have some options there. And the first one is the option to use an extract filter. And this is actually a filter, and if you use this filter, for example, on only this year, Tableau will only put the data from this year into your extract. So all the other data will be get out. And there's another function, it's called hide unused fields. It's the second one, and if you hit this button, Tableau will get rid of all the columns you don't use in your extract. So if you have 200 columns and you only use 5, Tableau will get rid of all the 195 columns. Don't use it, don't put it in the extract. You get a really small extract which is fast.
The idea is to have an extract that we also use it for multiple dashboards. So if you're using this one, somebody else can use some other columns.
Yeah, sure. But it's the same with custom SQL. You have to add your custom SQL. You have to also add new columns to it.
Yeah, that's why we have trouble. So.
Okay, yeah. And that's one of the troubles of custom SQL, because if you add a new column to your custom SQL and you put it somewhere in the middle of your custom SQL, your calculations will break. I think that's the problem you will have. Yes, okay. I will tell about that later at the drinking. All right? It's don't use custom SQL. You get problems like this. Also, if you use an extract, Tableau will materialize, so it will try to calculate as much as possible, pre-calculated in your extract. So all the row-level calculations you make are getting pre-calculated, and Tableau is putting them in the extract like they are normal columns. And you can also use the function aggregated extract, so you can roll your extract up to a month or a day or something like that. So if you have data you're only interested in data on day level, for example, Tableau can group it on day level right in the extract. So it will get rid of a lot of columns and group it. So if you're on a live connection, which people do, we also do ourselves, not all the databases are equal. There are a lot of in-memory, fast, hyper-speed databases which are built only for things like Tableau do. We have some examples, it's not really important. But there are also databases which are not optimized for analysis, things we do. They are optimized for something like a sales system or anything like that. So if you have a database master at your company, give him your calculations, and you can find them in your performance monitor, which I mentioned earlier. If you use the performance monitor, you can see the calculation Tableau is sending to the database. And if you give that calculation, that query to your database master, he can tell you exactly why that query is slow. He will put it in the database, it will run, he will get a little results with some execution plan, it's called. And he can tell you, okay, I see something like a calculation called level of detail, blah, blah, blah. And that's really slow. If you remove it, if you optimize it, you will have a fast dashboard again. So it's a little teamwork with your database masters. So that's the most important one for now. And if you still have big problems, performance problems, and you have like 1 billion rows, 15 billion rows, something like that, maybe even more, you could use something like this. You can divide your extract in a more aggregated extract. So for example, one on monthly level, and you can do one on daily level, for example, and you can do one on the detailed level. So what you get is a very small extract, which has only data on monthly level, for example. You can use it as your first visualization in your dashboard. It will give you exactly the same information as the detailed extract, but it's on a very small data set. If you click it, you go to a warm cache, so from hot to warm. And if you click somewhere there, you maybe go to some details sheet where you have all the details you want. But then you have already filtered it with 2 dashboard actions, so it's getting a lot smaller. So this is really advanced stuff. If you're interested in it, let me know. But it's cool. Just a little example. We had a customer with 15 billion records, and we used this to create a dashboard. Otherwise, it wasn't even possible to build it with that amount of data. It was like really a lot of data. So the last part, and then we managed to do this. It's called environment. And this is the part where we complain about IT. Like, the Tableau server is slow, it's crap, can you upgrade it? There's a little image, you can use this if you get the presentation. But there are three key things to keep in mind if you talk about a environment. There's the server your Tableau server is installed on. If you're on old Tableau software, try to upgrade first. That's just the first rule, just upgrade. And after that, you can do more investigation. If you have old hardware, so if the server is getting old, keep in mind that Tableau is an interactive, highly interactive visualization tool. So if I click somewhere, I want a result within 1 second. So that machine has to render something within 1 second and give it to me. So you can imagine that server is having to do a lot in 1 second. And if you have an old server, it will take 3, 4, 5 seconds to do it. If you get a newer server, it will maybe take a half a second. So the faster the machine is, the more responsive your Tableau server will be. And a lot of customers have a virtual machine environment, and they put like 20 machines on it, and then also a Tableau server, and maybe not another Tableau server, and it is running okay. But there are graphs of if you say, okay, we have a virtual machine, it's getting a little bit technical, I'm sorry. You can reserve a little bit of that machine only for Tableau server. That way Tableau server don't have to fight for resources. So for example, if you have a machine with Tableau server on it, another Windows installation with SQL Server and someone else, and all these three machines are busy, Tableau is asking the server, can I have some resources? I want to make a cool visualization. And then the server says, okay, just wait a second. Someone else is busy, and then you get your shot. So just wait a second. And that gives a lot of angry people. Yeah, okay. So that's actually the last sheet. I'm not getting more into this. It's pretty advanced. But the thing I want to tell you today is just keep calm. And if you use these tips, you can go faster. All right? So these are my contact information. These are the contact information. So if you want these sheets, just email me or add me on Tableau Public or LinkedIn or whatever, and we can have a little chat. You can also go to our website, infotopics.nl, and right there you can also see something about that cool Sankey on the background. There's a blog I wrote about this Sankey diagram. Read it, and I will give you more information. Okay, thank you.